bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place.
Ready? Right.
This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go. Go.
And a good morning, football fans. It is a Football Friday here on Birds 365, leading into what's going to be a pretty damn big weekend for the Philadelphia Eagles on a lot of different levels. And we're going to talk about all those levels today over the next 2 hours here on Birds 365 with Mac and Bill. Johnny Mac going to tag out after the first hour, go over, get some good insight info on the Birds heading into their game against the Eagles prior to. So Bill Colarulo's going to jump in for him in hour number 2. Johnny Mac got some info yesterday. A little bit of a surprise. The Eagles injury report, much like it was the day before, Suopeta goes full practice rather than just limited. But that didn't necessarily mean that Suopeta was going to be playing. I thought it was going to mean that Cam Jurgens was playing. Yesterday, when he got a chance to watch reps, it was someone else at right guard for the Philadelphia Eagles, eh?
Yeah, Tyler Steen. It looks like they're going to break the seal on Tyler Steen. All signs point to him being the starting right guard against the Dallas Cowboys. And yeah, it was interesting to say the least. I don't know many people saw that coming. He did get to play 6 snaps, his first offensive snaps in Washington when Sua hurt the hip and went down for a little while, but Sua came back in the game and finished. So there were no indications this was coming until yesterday, and bang, there he is out there working with Lane Johnson on combination blocks, working with Jason Kelsey. This is where they wanted to go. It was just a matter of how quickly they could get there. And obviously they slow played it. And, to me, this opens up interesting thoughts as far as if he plays well, what do you do coming off the bye? Because ultimately, remember, and this is what we talked about when we thought there was going to be a competition during training camp that never unveiled itself, because Tyler was making a pretty big transition from college tackle to moving inside a guard. Ultimately, they want to get to Cam Jurgens at center and Tyler Steen as the right guard. That's the long-term plan. And if you can get him in at right guard and he's playing well, do you just put Cam Jurgens back for now as the backup center and keep him focused on his ultimate job? So a lot of interesting things to unfold, starting with Sunday against the Cowboys. And by the way, that's not an easy test for a rookie player in his first NFL start, because I think a lot of people don't realize when they say Lane Johnson shuts down Micah Parsons. Well, yeah, partially, but the Philadelphia Eagles have shut down Micah Parsons because he moves all over the place. Right. And Dan Quinn will see rookie guard and say, all right, we're good. He rushes from the middle. He rushes all the time inside. So it's going to be tough. And oh, by the way, the Cowboys also have DeMarcus Lawrence. They have, I call him OBO, like Alberto, because I don't want to butcher his name. He is a tremendous interior player. They have a very good defensive front, so it's a tough test.
Johnny Mac, I've never coached a football team a day in my life, but it doesn't mean that I can't have opinions on it. And sometimes they fly in the face of the team you're talking about analyzing are actually doing. Readily admit that I'm surely not any graduate of Stoutland University. Were the 6 snaps that Tyler Steen played that week that good? Because up until the Washington game, there was no question that when Cam Jurgens was cut, at least in my mind, Cam Jurgens coming back, he's going right back to right guard. Sue Opeta, good job, held down the fort. Way to go. Thank you very much. Cam Jurgens gets his practice window open, and kind of out of nowhere, Steen is not only in the mix, but it's pointing toward him actually starting the game on Sunday. And got to give a nod here. I got a tweet yesterday. I don't even know what time it was, but I'm pretty sure it was before practice even took place, like right after our show ended yesterday, that said Howard Eskin said on WIP he would be shocked if Cam Jurgens played this week. So Howard got himself some inside information. Somebody's leaking down at the Eagles, and Howard got a hold of it and went with it on WIP. And I responded to the tweet. I said, well, we're just going to have to wait till Sunday. Would surprise me. So I'm almost floored by this. Now, I'm not there. I'm not at practice. How the hell do I know? But the Eagles have not done their business this way previously, putting a guy in without much really work, without much experience. What is it about this week? Do you think Jurgens isn't ready? Was Opeta not as good as maybe we thought he was? What is driving the Eagles to take this chance? Because I'm sorry, I got no problems. They're taking a chance by putting a rookie who hasn't really had many snaps at all in his NFL career into the biggest game of the year so far.
No, I don't think that. Number one, I don't think they made the decision on 6 snaps in Washington. But I do think, it's nice to see him out there as a in live action against 2 very good interior players, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and he held up pretty well in those 6 snaps. But I don't think Jeff Stoutland woke up and said, "Oh, he played 6 snaps. Let's go with him." It's funny. I got the question because not only Birds 365, but I did a bunch of radio, Dallas radio, Mike Gill, typically, Rob Ellis and those guys. For the 17th time I lost it. Should the Eagles run the ball this week? And I just lost. I lost because for a lot of reasons. I mean, one, it's such a, there's such a layered question, but they haven't been effective running the football. And a lot of that has to do, to be honest, with the health of the quarterback, because he's what fuels the Eagles' run game. And I talk about it all the time, manipulating spacing, all that, affecting the defense. When the defense doesn't have to worry about the quarterback pulling the football and coming out the back end, it becomes Earl Campbell. And they don't have Earl Campbell. They can't just turn around and hand the football to their running backs. And as I stated multiple times yesterday, follow the money. Who do they pay? They pay A.J. Brown. They pay Dallas Goedert. They're going to pay Devontae Smith. They don't pay their running backs. They don't have a great running back room. So all of that layered in, they've not been effective running the football. I think they want to get more effective running the football, and they understand the quarterback's not healthy, so they got some issues there as far as that. And I think they want to get where they wanted to get, Tyler Steen's size. And, you do want to sort of run the football at Micah Parsons if you can, because that will mitigate his effect, his quickness, his effectiveness as a pass rusher. So, I think they're not happy with Sua. And when it comes to Cam, understand Howard, works for the team. So
Yeah.
he's got a little bit of access the rest of us don't have. Most of us expected Cam Jurgens to play. It is the bye week coming up after this week, so you get an extra 2 weeks if you don't play him. So maybe the Eagles are being cautious. He's out there practicing. He looks fine, but that's why I think, he's very undersized for a guard. We talked about this when him moving from from center to guard as the starter. And again, that training camp battle never unveiled itself. But the Eagles wanted it to. Tyler Steen just wasn't ready. And again, this is where they wanted to get to. Did they get to it? Maybe. But if he plays terribly, obviously you're going to come back off the bye and you're probably going to see Cam Jurgens in there. But if he plays well, I think you might not even see Cam Jurgens back at right guard because that's not his position. He's the stopgap. But again, those are questions that'll probably be answered on Sunday.
Let me ask you a Dallas Cowboy question. You mentioned that the Eagles would like to run the football, but they may not think they can run the football as effectively if Jalen Hurts isn't part of the running game of RPOs. Is he going to hold on to the ball? And are you going to make a play on a running back? Oops, he doesn't have the ball. I understand all that. The Minnesota Vikings came in here and said, we're not going to let you want to run the ball, you can go ahead and run the ball because we're not going to let you pass it. We're going to play 8 deep. We're going to have extra guys in the box. We're daring you to run the football. And Eagles did. And DeAndre Swift ran it right down the Minnesota Vikings' throat. If you're an opponent this year, and oh, by the way, the Eagles won that game, and they won it relatively handily. The Vikings stayed within a score. They kept scoring after the Eagles would make it more.
Yeah, they were down 20 points and scored a bunch late.
Right. Yeah. They got a bunch of points to make it look closer than it actually was. But why wouldn't more opponents do that to the Eagles? If they've got the same read that you do here, the Eagles just really aren't running it all that effectively, and Jalen Hurts isn't as big a threat as he usually is. Why wouldn't you just come in and say, all right, we're going to dare you to run the football, Eagles, because we're going to do everything to stop your pass game, which seems to be your first, second, and third option on offense.
Well, they might. Yeah, they might. And that's the point. That's where the Eagles are good. I mean, you mentioned that game, and I cite that game a lot because it was ridiculous to the point of they were daring them to run. You don't see 6-man boxes too much in the NFL, but you saw them a bunch in that game. And Brian Flores is a little bit quirky, as we all know. He does a lot of different things that other people don't do. So I don't think you're going to see it to that degree. But they might say, you know what, we're going to bracket A.J. Brown and his 125 yards a game, and we're going to bracket Devontae Smith. You can't bracket all three when you throw Dallas Goedert, and that's what makes the Eagles so good. And then the Eagles will toggle. And that's what I say with the running game every week. But people ask if it's not that they won't run. If you dare them to run, like Minnesota, they'll run. Shane Steichen did it. All right. Green Bay did it one year. And Shane was like, you're going to keep doing that? All right. I'll run. That's what makes the Eagles good. But I do think you have to realize, and all things in life, and I said this, follow the money. How many times you hear that? Follow the money. Who do they pay? Who are the stars on this team? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts. That's what this foundation is built on. And that's their best players, by the way. Now, the Eagles are I always say, they're not a run first team. They're not a pass first team. They're a Jalen Hurts first team. He's banged up now. So they're taking advantage of his passing skills. But then the second part is Dallas is like 18th in the NFL in run defense. So everybody says. And then you have the Micah factor. You got to run at him. The difference, and I looked it up, the difference between 18th and being top 10 is 10 yards, Jody.
Per game.
108 yards, 98 yards. It's not like they're giving up 150. That Minnesota team that gave up 270, they're like 11th in rushing defense. They're ahead of Dallas. They give up 102, 103 yards a game. The minuscule defense between the minuscule difference between 10 and 20 is nominal. So people get focused. Oh, they're 18th. Who cares? If they give them, if the Cowboys give them looks where they can run the ball, in other words, the math equation, they'll run the ball. If they don't, they're going to throw the ball.
All right, so let me ask you this. How many plays per game do you think Jalen Hurts options out of? Because one thing I think the Eagles have done a really nice job at this year is, and I'm giving credit to Brian Johnson here, is judging what the defense is in, even pre-snap, not when they come to the line of scrimmage, when you're sending the play in prior to winning the guessing game on what the defense is going to look like right before the quarterback snaps the ball. Well, sometimes they do a good job of hiding that, not revealing it ahead of time, and a quarterback makes a judgment call and opts into something else at the line of scrimmage. How many plays a game do you think Jalen changes before the ball is snapped, from the time they come out of the huddle to the
Well, I think there's a misconception of sort of old school audibles. He doesn't do that a lot, but those don't exist a lot in the modern NFL. The modern NFL, usually a play call has two parts built into it, run and pass. And you hear kill, kill, kill. Carson Wentz used to be very very loud with that. You can do it in a bunch of different ways, but he would actually say kill, kill, kill. And what he was doing is killing from pass to run or run to pass. So in other words, you have a main part of the play, which might be the pass, and then you kill it to the run, or the main part of the play may be a run, and you see, and they say, oh, they got 6 men in the box, and you kill it the other way.
Right.
So most of it, and that's what the difference between the old school quarterbacks who used to run the game at the line of scrimmage and audible and change things. Now it's more of, and I always say they don't teach plays anymore. They teach concepts. So you're looking for the Mike linebacker and the free safety. Mike linebacker's here, do this. Free safety's here, do this. That's sort of how they teach the modern game. And for a couple reasons. One, that's what they do at college. So people found out that they don't have enough time. We talk about all the time with the CBA and the limited practice times. In the old days, you had the quarterback, season ended, he was in the building the next day working constantly throughout the offseason. You don't get to do that anymore. So you have more limited time. So they've simplified things. And they teach concepts, really, not plays. Now, not 100% of the time. There are, sometimes you want to roll something out. But the old school audible, not a ton. That doesn't happen much anymore.
All right, but you did a great job of explaining it there. But if he's killing a play and making the decision between a run and a pass, for the purpose of my question, that would be considered an audible. How many times did the Eagles actually change the play from the time they go into the huddle until the ball is snapped? If it's changed differently, and it's not changed as drastically, that it's more simplistic, I get that. I understand that. Do you think the Eagles change a lot, or do you think they just run what they run?
Probably 10 times a game, I would say.
Out of what's average snap? 60 something?
60 to 70.
So 1 out of every 5 or 6 plays. Okay. Because that, I think you have to be able to do that. A good defense, and I think Dan Quinn runs a very good defense, is going to be able to catch you off guard at least a percentage of the time every single game. And
yeah, it's like but I always remember my last math class, because I was not a math guy in school, and I had one math class I had to do as in college, and as your basic courses you got to get through, And I remember the final day, and I was so thrilled. And I'm like, all right, I never have to deal with this nonsense again. And sports became a big math equation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and that's what it is. And that's what football is. The box. Oh, it's basically one player. It's either the Mike linebacker or the free safety. What's he doing? And that's how you define what you're doing on offense as far as and basketball, 3-point shot. Why do they have the 3-point shot? Because hey, if you make 5 of 10 from 3 or 4 of 10, that's 12 points. So what do you got to do from 2? Well, you got to shoot to get 12 points. You got to shoot 60%.
Right.
That ain't so the math tells you keep chucking up those threes. Launch angle. Why do people hit 180 in baseball? Because they think you can't get 3 straight singles. The math says you're more likely to hit a 3-run home run or a big home run, big hit, than keep playing station to station baseball. All the sports, and by the way, it sucks. And I don't know, I'm not a hockey guy. I'm sure it's the same way in hockey. It sucks, but that's the way it is in all of sports, including football.
It's become analytically driven in every single sport. You're right about that. All right, speaking of math, we're going to crunch the numbers with our bud, Paul Domowitch, next. His stat pack on JAKIB Sports is a must-read every single week before the Eagles play. He's got some interesting angles, math, call it what you want, analytical research for our buddy Paul Domowitch. He's jumping on board with us next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed the most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You've got Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, and our Friday Football Insider. That would be from the 33rd-team.com and JAKIBsports.com, and his Friday Stat Pack, something we love to dive into every single week. Paul Domowitch joins us here on Birds 365. Damo, You leaned heavily on the Eagles defense this week in your analysis of the Birds and the Cowboys. Should we literally be scared with the fact that the Eagles have had the kind of troubles they have against guys in the slot, and they have probably the best slot receiver in the game coming to town this week?
I don't know if scared is the right word. Maybe concerned.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm not going to go scared, but I will say that it is troubling, the numbers, and particularly the one that stood out to me and the reason why is because, Damo, what this defense is designed to do, and that's limit explosive plays. And as you point out, of Sam Howell's 1 million pass completions, I forget the exact number, 11 went over 15 yards. So they're at 56 pass plays of 15 yards or more, and they only gave up 75 all last season. And that 56 is the worst in the NFL. So they're not doing what the defense is designed to do, and that concerns me.
Yeah, and I don't know I didn't count how many of those 56 are on third down, but teams have converted a distressing amount of third and longs against them. Usually in the past, you get a team in third and long, and the Eagles defense is going to force a punt. Now it's not so sure. You're holding your breath when it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8. Last week against Washington, I think Howell converted several 3rd and 6s and 7s. That's a problem. That's gonna bite you in the butt in the long run and short run.
Damo, JM and I debated this a little bit earlier in the week. I put a little bit more blame on the Eagles front four in the game in Washington. Certainly the majority of the blame went on the DBs. They didn't play well. They didn't cover well. They didn't do their job. But this was supposed to be a sieve of an offensive line the Eagles were going through down in Washington, and didn't get there till the fourth quarter when Hassan Reddick got a big sack. I get it. Sam Howell got rid of the football quickly, but there were plays where he dropped back, took his 3 seconds, still had time to deliver the football, completed those third down conversions and the like. Eagles defensive line for me also contributed to that loss last week and not getting enough pressure. We going to see an improved Eagle defensive line effort this week? Because I don't think they're going to go blitz. Dak is one of the better quarterbacks in the league to handle the blitz. Yeah. I think they're coming with the 4 again and having faith that they're going to get more results than last year. You think that's the way they play it, or you think that Sean Desai, who's shown some flexibility, will get aggressive and blitz more than he usually does?
Well, it would help. I assume Jalen Carter's supposed to be back this week. If his back holds up, that was a big reason for the problems they had last week. When you got a quarterback who gets rid of the ball as quickly as Howell did last year, your edge rushers seldom are going to get to him. The pressure's got to come from the interior, straight up the gut, and it didn't last week because of Carter leaving early with a back injury, with Davis not playing much because of his hamstring, I believe. So they've got to get interior pressure on Prescott. He won't, as I mentioned in the column, Jody, historically, he doesn't get rid of the ball very quickly. He's willing to hang on to it a little bit longer than Howell did, than Tua did, which gives you a split second for your pass rush to get there. So you're right. That pass rush has to be better this week.
Well, you mentioned Dak, and you're right. He typically holds on the football, but you also mentioned in week 4 against the Giants, and we all know Wink's coming from the buses, and so did the Cowboys, and he got out the football really, really quickly. So it seems to me everybody's very cognizant of just how good the Eagles pass rush is, and everybody's trying to speed up. Kirk Cousins holds on to the ball, but he was a little bit quicker against the Eagles. I expect Dak to be a little bit quicker. And that's why when we talk about this cover and rush and cover, as JG used to say, that's why I go more towards the back end, because how much more can you maximize this pass rush? The pressure rates for Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, and Jalen Carter are off the charts. how much more can they improve versus the back end where there's a lot of room for improvement. And my question to you, Damo, is there enough room? Is Kevin Byard being here going to settle things down? When Bradley Roby gets back, and that's not going to be this week, is that going to settle things down? Is there potential for improvement?
Yeah. I mean, I think Roby's is close to, a difference maker. If you're looking for hope down the road, when he gets back, he might be able to settle down that slot situation. Right now, I mean, it looks like they'll be rotating Ricks and Sidney Brown this week, I guess. I like Sidney. Yeah, I like Sidney Brown, but he's inexperienced. He's a safety trying to kind of convert to the slot. They're making a lot of technical mistakes, outside leverage on guys.
Yeah.
I mean, CD Lamb, it could get ugly Sunday. I mean, they're going to, they line him up typically about 65% of the time in the slot. I would imagine that number is going to be higher this week. They're going to counter that rush with a lot of quick slants and things like that. I mean, you're right about rushing coverage. I mean, they have to somehow hold these guys up for a second, find a way to keep them covered, force them from making, getting into their routes so that the rush can get there.
Could get ugly Sunday. That sounds like something maybe the Eagles should fear this week. I know you two guys didn't want to go to that one, but I'm literally afraid of CD Lamb coming up this weekend. All right, Damo, I want to jump over to the offensive side. You cannot, I repeat, not ask Jalen Hurts about his injury. He doesn't want to talk about it.
Mike, you got to ask Mike. Mike tried. God bless him. He tried. Mike Sealski.
Good on Sealski. We'll ask him this in hour number 2. His defensive mechanism about this. What should we be reading into this? That he's just tired of the question, that he's actually trying to keep the Eagles beat guys from getting some information that can help the Dallas Cowboys. The results of this about Jalen's got to know we can all read the stat sheet and know that he rushed for less than 10 yards last week and draw our own conclusions that, hey, you're playing hurt, pal. We know it. You just don't want to confirm it for us. How is that going to play on Sunday? Is this going to be an ongoing story and narrative, and call it what you want, that Jalen Hurts is, at least right now, not the running quarterback that he was that led the Eagles to the Super Bowl last year?
Well, I mean, Jalen's no different than any other player I've ever dealt with who's been hurt, and he's hurt, and then you ask him about it, and he doesn't want to talk about it. So it's just that Jalen's more high profile right now. I mean, everybody's, trying to dissect what he means and says and what exactly is wrong with the knee. I mean, it appears to be a bruise, which means that if he gets to the bye week, he's going to have 2 weeks to that'll hopefully be, help that. But he's still got one big game before that. But, I mean, the bottom line is the 2 games since he's aggravated that knee, he's got a 123.9 passer rate.
I know, it's unbelievable. And everybody wants to run the ball, Damo. The quarterback is so impactful to the running game of this team. I was telling Jody, does everybody think they can just turn around and Earl Campbell's back there and they can run traditional football? He's the reason their running game, he manipulates the spacing and everybody's scared of him pulling the football and taking it out, and it creates these big lanes. And the offensive line as well. I don't want to dismiss them, but they pay A.J. Brown, who, by the way, has done something no other receiver in the history of football has done right now. They pay Dallas Goedert. They're going to pay Devontae Smith. Follow the money. They don't pay their running backs. They're not, they might give Jody Mack and Paul Domowitz a couple carries down the road. They kind of cobble that thing together. Yet, you've been around this town. You've been around. It's always 1975. They want to run the ball. You got A.J. Brown. You just mentioned Jalen's numbers as he's banged up as a passer. They're phenomenal. 123.9 passer rating in the last 2 games. 75% completion rate. 8.7 yards per attempt 6 touchdown passes. Wasn't this the complaint when he was only throwing 22 touchdown passes? He can't be an MVP. He doesn't throw touchdowns. Well, now he is, and they're not happy. What can this guy do, Paul Domowitz?
I mean, he just needs to keep throwing the ball as well as he has. I mean, last week, as typically, I mean, Nick's basically become an 11 personnel coach. They run it nearly 70% of the time, which means you're in spread offense with 3 wide receivers, and a lot of the time empty sets. So, I mean, the defense knows what's coming. And yet in the last 2 games, Jalen's completed, or against Washington, he completed 27 out of 32 passes in that with 11 personnel. So, I mean,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I mean, the one thing I want to see, is what happens Sunday on 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. They use the fake tush push on Sunday, and to great success. I mean, they handed it off to Swift, and he gets a touchdown. I want to see, if are they going to still use Jalen on those sneaks, on those tush pushes, or are they going to wait until the knee feels better? Do they not want to risk him aggravating it in the middle of a game? But yet those plays are so critical to their success. I mean, as Nick said last week, or early, I guess it was Monday or Sunday, it's like 1st and 9 for them every time they have the ball. So that's where I mean, I don't, if he doesn't run, if there's no designed runs other than that, they're okay because he's passing the ball so well. It's just the sneaks that could be a factor if they don't use him in that regard.
All right, Damo, even though we've just minimized the running game in the Eagles offense for the last 5 minutes, I do want to ask you about a running back in the Eagles offense, and that's Kenny Gainwell. Coach gets a little defensive when anybody asks any questions about Kenny Gainwell, and point out the fact that his numbers are not only down, but down precipitously. He's not having a good season. Any way you slice the numbers, John and I, just before you came on, we're talking about how analytics has taken over all sports. I give you the analytics on Kenny Gainwell. Not good. Not having a very good season. But the coach continues to say, if we pulled Jalen Hurts every time made a bad pass, wouldn't have a quarterback. He goes to extreme lengths to defend Kenny Gainwell. Why?
I mean, I'm not as hard on him as you are, Jody. I mean, he had a 17-yard catch that was a big play Sunday. I mean, the fumble he had, I think it's the first lost fumble he's had in the one he had in the red zone. That's his first lost fumble since his rookie season. I mean, you got to look at circumstances when he's running the ball sometimes. I mean, a lot of it's the blocking's been poor. He's not – I mean, he serves I'm fine with him in his role right now as a rotational back. They use a lot as a pass catcher. I mean, I'm confused why Rashad Penny hasn't played at all, but I don't think Gainwell's hurt them. He
helped them. 3 yards a carry, Damo. 3 yards a carry.
Yeah. On what? How many carries?
51.
51. Yeah. I mean,
and I will say I don't think Kenny's played well, but he's usually playing now in the red zone. He's usually playing in certain situations. So
when your yards per carry is going to be down.
Yeah.
And last year, I believe he was.
Let me get this right. He's playing in the red zone, has 1 touchdown. Okay, yeah, that's working.
Well, it hasn't worked. Last year worked well.
Yeah. I mean, last year, I believe he was in the top 5 among running backs in red zone yards per carry. So I don't want to hear from people that say, why don't they keep using Swift in the red zone? I mean,
like Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith. Now, I don't compare the players. I brought that up, Dama, because you'll know. I would always say, Barry Sanders is the best pure runner I've ever seen. But if you're in the red zone, Wayne Fonts used to get a lot of crap for taking him out in the red zone. Well, that's because he's always dancing around. In the red zone, you got to go north-south. And Emmitt Smith would have, touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. He was one of the best red zone players ever. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people get that. I mean,
And you got
there's
to
a
take him
stop.
out sometime. I mean, he's got almost 150 touches right now, DeAndre Swift. You know, you use him that much the rest of this season, they're going to be putting him on a gurney in the playoffs. I mean, he's never touched the ball that much in a season. I don't think he's built for that, and that's where Gainwell comes in addition to the fact that Gainwell can catch the ball. So I just don't think it's a problem with their offense that when you look at his numbers.
All right. I do, and I'll note again that Boston Scott gets 1 carry a game. They played 8 games, and he's got 8 carries. Why is he on? Why don't they just go with 2 backs? If you're not going to give the guy any playing time whatsoever.
Well, he's the kick returner. He plays on special teams. That's one of the reasons Rashad Penny can't get up. I think a lot of people don't understand. If DeAndre Swift sprains his ankle this week, Rashad Penny's probably your lead back coming out of the bye.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're going to say that?
Yeah.
Out loud, meet it?
Yeah.
I'll take you for any wager you want to make. If Swift goes down, Kenny Gainwell will get more carries the next week than Rashad Penny.
Yeah, I think. I think
going to either of those 2 guys.
I think early in the season, I think you would have been right. I think now it would be Rashad. I'm not saying it's 100%. I'm not saying it's impossible you'd be, but I think people don't understand with Rashad Penny. Like, you're not going to put him up on game day because he doesn't help in other areas. He's not a good pass receiver. He's not a good pass protector. So you're not going to play him on 3rd down. He can't help you on special teams like Boston Scott can. So in other words, if you're not the lead back, you have to do something else to be up on game day. And he doesn't do something else well. If they need a lead back, he'll be involved. Well, Kenny Gainwell, because they do love Kenny Gainwell. Will he get more carries? Maybe, but they'll be split to a certain degree, and he'll get his opportunity. Is probably the way I should have phrased it. He's here as insurance, and DeAndre Swift, as Damo mentioned, he's got a lot of touches. He's got a history of being injured. He's missed 4 games in each of his first 3 seasons. You ultimately are going to need somebody else at some point, the odds say, and that's why Rashad Penny's still here. And while I say that, they'll probably cut him tomorrow. But anyway, that's what I've been told, sort of behind the scenes, and we'll see if it shakes out that way. But one thing about the running game, the biggest news yesterday, Damo, was Tyler Steen. Tyler Steen taking first team reps and individual. Not a lot of us saw that coming. Those 6 snaps in Washington, did Jeff Stoutland just wake up and go, you know what? Bang, it's Tyler Steen time.
I don't know. I mean, is Cam Jurgens not completely healthy yet?
He's practicing. I mean, he's limited. They list him as limited. Remember, they have the bye week, so they can buy him an extra 2 weeks. And I guess the first indication would have been when they traded Kentavious Street. We all said, all right, well, that's Jurgens' spot. But they elevated Julio Jones from the practice squad 1 week before they had to. So that was probably the first indication that they were going to wait on Cam Jurgens. You get him 2 more weeks by not playing him this week. But here's what I said earlier, Dom, and I'll throw this by you. If Tyler Steen plays well against the Cowboys in that front, and that's a very good front.
Yeah.
When you're coming out of the bye, do you go back to Cam Jurgens at right guard? Because ultimately, that's the plan. You want Tyler Steen at right guard, and Cam Jurgens is going to be the center when Jason Kelce retires. If he's the right guard and you want him to be the right guard in the future, do you even put Cam back in?
Good question. I mean, if Steen plays well Sunday, I think he will have earned at least another start.
Yeah.
All right, Damo, it's that time for a Jody Mack hypothetical, which even though they hate this on the stream, They'll like it because I have to take steps to get to a specific position. Let's say the Eagles beat the Cowboys this week, so they open up 2.5 games in the division. Let's say after the bye, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Get that Super Bowl revenge that everyone is craving. And the Lions lose a game somewhere else. So they're in really good shape overall, home field advantage, everything else. Against Buffalo, Sunday, November 26th. I'll tell you just a quick, I love this story. I'm standing on the floor at Madison Square Garden talking to Mike Breen. I know you know who Mike Breen is. Voice of the Knicks and the voice of the NBA, ABC, ESPN, whatever. There's a Knick player who's just standing around the sideline. He's not going to play because they had just put him on the injured list. So Breen calls over to him, goes, hey, and the player will stay nameless. I don't want to rat the guy out. How's the knee feeling? So he reaches down to like grab his knee. It's bothering me. It's bothering me. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to go now. A coach walks by, one of the assistant coaches, and says, listen, it's the left knee that you're supposed to be hurting on. And he grabs his right knee. So we know he's full of baloney. He's just making this crap up as he goes along. That game against Buffalo Bills, DeAndre Swift, who you fear they're overusing a little bit, DNP, coach's decision, game management, workload.
Jody's been pushing this since
I've been saying it's going to happen at least one game this year, a load management game for a Philadelphia Eagle running back. If they've won the next 2 weeks and they're in really good shape, DeAndre Swift comes limping out with his right knee, and they have to tell him it's his left knee that's supposedly bothering him. They'll, of course, dress it up as an injury, but those who know will know whether it is or not. Will they give DeAndre Swift a week off this week just in case this year?
I don't know, because I mean, at running back, you don't really have to do that. You just don't.
Yeah.
You just don't give him the
wait
ball
for the real one. Yeah.
You just give Gainwell more carries.
But wait,
more
Johnny just told me if you can't do something else for the team, you're not getting up. Rashad Penny never plays. He's never active. Why? Because you can't do something else. So the activity of the running back is well judged by the Eagles. They don't just put you up and let you stand on the sideline. You got to do something if you're one of the 46.
Well, he may, but I mean, what if it's a tie game late in the fourth quarter? You send him out there. I mean, I don't.
You're not
I don't
buying
see
it.
them like
I'm
that.
telling you,
Until Greg Popovich retires from the Spurs and comes in as a consultant, I don't think you have. They do their load management during the week. That's when they do their load management. Yeah. There's only 17 of these things. And by the way, you got to win them all. If they lose this week, they're still in first place technically by a half game because Dallas has had the bye. But the reality is they're tied in the loss column. Dallas has the advantage. They want to get the number one seed. They can't they already gave up one game and it affected them. They got to win. They got to keep winning because guess what? Detroit's going to keep winning with their schedule. And you can't afford in this league. When you're playing 82, you can afford to do it. When you're playing 162, you can afford to do it. I mean, 17, you better put your best players out there.
That's why I had to spin my hypothetical to the Eagles are in good shape. They're ripping off. They beat Kansas City, beat Dallas. And if it's neck and neck with any other team.
Well, yeah, if it's week 17, you'll see a bunch of load management. Week 18, and they don't have to win, you'll see a boatload of load management. And that's when it comes into play. But until then, it's not going to happen. Let's talk about Dallas. Let's talk about Micah Parsons. This has been the best team dealing with Micah Parsons, Damo. And I think Lane gets a lot of credit for that. But as I point, and he deserves it, don't get me wrong, but it's the Eagles' entire off because Micah moves all over the place. It's not like they just line him up against Lane Johnson. And I think they're going to circle Tyler Steen this week because he'll rush from the interior. How do they handle that? Are we going to see a bunch of chipping from Kenny Gainwell? It's going to be a big Kenny Gainwell week because you got to chip Micah Parsons, and he's their best pass protector. Is that going to infuriate Eagles fans, because the Eagles are going to have to pay extra attention to a certain number 11 that is not their own.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see where he spends most of the afternoon lining up. You're probably right. They're going to probably try to exploit Steen. If Steen's playing, I got to believe Stout thinks he can handle it. But they'll need to give him help. The reason this team's been so successful against Parsons is because they go right at him. I mean, which means running the ball a fair amount and running it right at him. We'll see. They need to be successful again this week. They can't afford him to be spending a lot of the day on top of Jalen Hurts.
That's a stat crunch I'd love to see, Mr. Numbers. You might know this off the top of your head. If you don't, it's an unfair question, and I'll apologize. What's the percentage when the Eagles pass and have a running back in the game that they actually keep them in the block, that they don't send them out into the pattern, that is the sole job, well, or at least the most important part of the job is staying in. Sometimes they'll flare out and get a not top selection play, dump down pass. But how much is the percentage of that when they do keep a running back in the block, how often do they do that on passing plays?
Good question. I've wanted to check to see the percentage of empty sets they use out of that 11 personnel. It's a lot. I mean, everybody in the league all these offensive coordinators are obsessed with sending as many receivers out in patterns as they can at the expense of quarterbacks, which makes no sense to me. But when you consider what they're paying quarterbacks, so I mean the Eagles. I mean Brian Johnson seems to have no fear about that. I mean he feels that either at least typically when Jalen's healthy that he can handle getting hit, or that he can run away from a pressure and that he can get the ball out quicker. So I don't think I'll be curious to see Sunday whether they use fewer empty sets. I don't think they will. I mean, I think their confidence in their passing game is we're going to send 5 out. He'll find somebody and we'll be fine.
Yeah, it's going to be bold if they go about it. They did help a lot against Aaron Donald. They did help a lot. So we'll see how it shakes out against Micah and the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Cowboys have a better supporting cast though than Aaron had.
Yeah.
I mean, Micah's got DeMarcus Lawrence. He's got Osa. I don't like to butcher his name. He's a very good player. They have a very good defensive front. So, yeah, it's going to be a good matchup. And we finally get to see Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott. That's good as well. They're not playing against each other, obviously, but see them on the same field. At P. Damo, make sure you follow Paul on X, Twitter. Read him at the 33rd team. And read his stat package at JAKIBsports.com. A lot of good nuggets in there. Scary nuggets with the pass coverage. Yeah. That was the scariest thing I saw this Halloween. Those secondary stats.
So both of you guys do have fear, just not fear of CD Lamb.
What do I care? I don't have fear. I don't have to play him.
Just said it was scary.
Something
scary to me that equates to fear.
Well, that was more.
If you acknowledge something is scary, you're fearful of it.
Well, that was more of a literary device because it's Halloween season. Personally,
I prefer caution or concern.
Yeah,
there you go. Stick with that. That's what you said earlier. You're sticking with it. Good for you, Damo. All right, you got to give me a score. Eagles getting to 8-1, hanging in the balance in the fourth quarter. Eagles get the coast late, or are you actually going to pick the Cowboys to win? How are you going to go about this, Damo? What do you think happens Sunday by 7:30?
Well, after all this gloom and doom I've been preaching, the bottom line is in this series, they're usually going to be a split. I mean, over the last 10 years, 8 of the 10 seasons, it's been a 1-1 split. A lot of the times it's been home and home, and I think that's what we're going to see again this year. I think the Eagles will win Sunday close, maybe 31-27. I don't think either defense is going to slow the other offense down much. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, and you should take the over.
Yeah.
He's going over for sure. The
Damo, to foreshadow, was very close to my score. Very close.
All right. We got Johnny Mac score next. Damo, always a pleasure, bud. Thanks for doing it. Love the shirt. We'll be
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Damo.
Hold down with you with us on Birds 365. All right. Since you need to exit stage left and get to South Philly, I'm going to put you on the same test that I gave Damo. Close. They actually lose handily, above and beyond the score. Give me a little descriptive narrative as to how the game plays out on Sunday, Johnny Mac.
I think two very good teams. I like the way Damo described it. I think good offense beats good defense in this league, not the opposite. Used to be the opposite years ago, no longer. Both of these teams are capable of scoring points and will score points. I have it 31-23 Eagles. So I think they handle their business. And they keep chugging along into the bye with the number 1 seed, with the top record in the NFL for what will be the 27th straight week. I forget where we are, but long time.
Well, if they win, Jalen Hurts goes to 24-2 in the last.
It's 24-22 right now. He'll be 25 out of 27 if they win the game.
Okay, but that includes the Super Bowl, right?
No, that's regular season.
Okay, just regular season. I thought he was 23-2 in his last 25, but you say it's what? In his last
he has won 24 of his past 26 starts, and that's pretty good. The loss to Washington and the loss to the New York Jets. And by the way, both of those games, he had 24-2, 923 winning percentage in his last 26 regular season games. That dates back to week 15 of 2021. He's 13-1, by the way, since week 11 of 2022. They just keep winning games when Jalen Hurts starts at quarterback. And what the 2 games they lost, that's what I was bringing. -4, -3 in the turnover ratio. So the Eagles tend to shoot themselves in the foot when they do lose.
Right. And Jalen, since we're looking at Jalen's record, Jalen's part of that. The loss last year to Washington, the Goddard fumble, which should have been penalized, the Quez Watkins trying to get extra yards down the field thereafter. That's not on Jalen.
Oh, no, that's not on Jalen.
No, but
the Jets play, that's on Jalen.
That's exactly what I was saying. All right, Johnny Mac, safe travels over to South Philadelphia. Tell Coach, tell Kenny Gainwell hi for me.
We'll do it. It's big Kenny Gainwell week. Pass pro. Got to help. All right.
Yeah, that's one thing. I need that number on Monday. You got to look it up for me since Damo didn't know it off the top of his head. Percentage of plays that the Philadelphia Eagles keep a running back in. That's their main goal. And like I said to Damo, everybody every once in a while you chip a guy.
I don't know if those numbers are out there. I mean, it kind of depends on your definition. Like when you're chipping and you leak out, I would say that's your main goal, but you're probably the 3rd or 4th progression. You're also a receiver. So kind of depends on your definition.
That's a great question. Let me ask you your opinion. A running back stays in, he chips, and then he gets out into the pattern. Do you really consider that pass blocking?
Oh yeah. That's a big thing. I mean, yeah, that's their main objective on that particular play. All you're trying to do is slow down. These guys are so athletic. Not only Micah Parsons is ridiculous. People should focus on him, his quickness. On Sunday.
If I give you that, any contact with any oncoming defensive player counts as pass blocking. I'm telling you, the percentage is 12% of the passing plays. It's under 20. I feel very confident in saying that it's under 20%, that on all pass plays, how often is a back asked to be part of pass protection?
Well, I would say
and
on
if you're
third,
put a big emphasis on evaluating, he's the best pass blocker, but you don't use him in pass blocking much. The Eagles don't. I think the league in general doesn't.
Yeah,
but
by
the
the
Eagles
way,
might be better than less than most.
I did not say he was good at it. I said he was the Eagles' best pass
Best of a
protector.
bad lot. Yeah. And my
I did
point
not
is,
by any stretch of the imagination say he was good at. He is by far the Eagles' best pass protector. But yeah, none of them are good in pass pro, and that's one of the problems. I would say 3rd and 7 or more around the league, you're going to have a running back in to pass protect. And now they might, as I said, they might either chip and go leak out, or you might be trying to pick up the blitz and leak out after that. But that's when, and there aren't a lot around the league. I mean, it's kind of a lost art. So, but as far as the Eagles, yeah, Kenny's the best, pretty significant margin.
right. And my point was, if I didn't make it well, or if you thought that I was saying, you said that. No, I know you did. You said, yeah, the Eagles aren't great at it to begin with. He's like the tallest midget in the circus. I just don't think it's that. If that's what you're hanging your hat on as to why Kenny Gainwell is getting as many snaps as he is, because he's your. If you don't do something often, how big a strength is it that you're the best pass blocker of the running back if you don't ask them to block much at all?
I don't think they're hanging their hat on. I'm saying 3rd and 7 or more. So 3rd and long, which is what most NFL teams designate, 3rd and 7 or more. He's usually out there because you need somebody to be out there. And that's all I'm saying. 3rd and long, he's probably going to be out there. Not, he's not that much better, but he's a little bit better.
All right, now I'm going to go all analytics on you again here, Johnny Mac, which I know you love. How often are the Eagles in 3rd and 7 percentage-wise? Of all
I would have to look it up, but I mean, that's common. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. It's not. I mean, everybody's got 3rd and longs every week. I mean, it's the most significant down in football because that's when the defense has the advantage, and the more you can take advantage of that situation offensively, and that's what Jalen Hurts does so well. By the way, he so often breaks the back of a defense by extending plays. You think you've done everything right, converting 3rd and longs. You might be behind the sticks because of a false start, because of a holding penalty. Eagles are one of the best teams in football in those situations, and number 1 overall in 3rd down conversion. I'll have to look up where they are at 3rd and long, but it's
right. That's
going to be
point
top
I'm trying
5.
to make.
It's at worst, it's going to be top 5. I mean, they're really good. They're really good at that. But I gotta go.
Before you go, my point is, just so you understand, I don't think they're in 3rd and long all that many. What we talking about? 65 snaps, average snaps for the Eagles in a given week is usually in the 60s, right? Kelsey,
usually 67. Where you have first down, second down percentage wise. You only have a certain amount of 3rd downs. You might convert 10 of 14.
And then of those 3rd downs, how many are 7 or more? Not all that many. So if you look at it, 60-something snaps, and you get down to, and there's 5 plays on 3rd and long, we're talking about 8% of the plays in a game.
But you're getting bogged down. They're 8 of the most important plays of the game.
There's added importance to that. I'll give you that. It's 3rd down.
It's the most important play.
But if you think I'm getting bogged down in the numbers, guess what, John? You said this yourself earlier in the show. That's what football is now. It's a math equation. So I'm not the only one who's doing this. The Eagles and everybody else in the National Football League make decisions week in and week out.
What I was saying, it's a math equation based on, do you have an extra guy in coverage or an extra guy defending the run? That's what Vic Fangio's defense is all about, getting the extra guy in coverage while not giving up, in theory, something up front, or at least holding up front. It's about the extra defender with the quarterback. So that has become the math equation in football. Where's the extra defender? Is he in the box? Is he out of the box? What is he doing? And as a quarterback, that signifies to you the concept of what to do with the football, that extra guy.
Right. That's one of the many math equations they use in football these days to determine basically almost everything. All right, Johnny Mac, safe travels over to South Philly. John McMullen's out. You gave me 31-23 as a score. I'm going to get a score from Bill Colarulo, who's jumping in for Johnny Mac next. I'm going to get a score from Mike Sealski, and I'll give you a score before we get out of here. Hour to go here on Birds 365.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Mac and Bill. It's a little different to Mac and Mac. Bill Colarulo jumping in for Johnny Mac. He's got to get over and get in a Sirianni session. How was your week there, Mr. Colarulo?
Not too bad, Jody. How about you, my man?
We got through week of Birds 365, and we're ready for the game on Sunday against the Cowboys. And I got a lot of questions to get your take on how these two teams match up. But first things first, I want to ask you an opinion question. When assessing when a game is over and done with, do you put more emphasis on time of possession, total number of yards, or the scoreboard to determine whether it's a close game or not? I'll get very specific with you. Do you consider last week's game against Washington a close game?
Yeah, I think last week's game was close only because the Eagles really didn't start to pull away towards the end of the game there. So that's why I thought it was closer. But look, they were down 14 at one point, weren't they? Or 14-3, I think, at one point.
Down double digits, yeah.
So, I mean, it's really tough. I mean, that's a tough question because, yeah, sometimes time of possession can really dictate how much a team dominated. But then in other situations, like when the Dolphins play, for instance, they're scoring so quickly at times, time of possession doesn't mean anything. So it's really a week-to-week basis. I know I'm not really answering your question there, but it really depends on the game. And John McMullen always likes to say, I think he got that from Jim Schwartz, that every game has its own personality, and it does. And it's hard to predict based off of final numbers sometimes. You really got to watch the game and get a feel for the personality of that game.
I'll tell you the reason why I'm bringing this up, because one of our streamers, again, just hates when I point out if late in a game a team gets within getting an onside kick to potentially get the ball back and find a way to either win or tie a game, they think that's ridiculous that I reference something like that. That if a team has gotten the better of the play and got more yards and had the lead for the entire game, but if another team, it's a 60-minute game, that doesn't change. That never changes. They're going to do it this week and the week after that and the week after that. They've done it every week prior to. It's a 60-minute game, unless, of course, they're tied and then they play overtime. But that never changes. How they move the ball, how things are decided, how much math is included. And, that changes on a week-to-week basis. But one thing that never changes is the game ends at 60 minutes. So if a team has a chance in the 58th minute to get the ball back and either tie or take the lead via an onside kick, that end of conversation. It's a close game. That's the way it ended up. Even if one team was much the better for the first 50 minutes, the key denotation is where was the game at in the final 2 or 3 minutes of the game. If you're within one score, I say that's a close game. You agree or disagree?
I have to agree with you, because how many times have we seen it over the years watching football, NFL or college, where in the last couple minutes of the game, a team is able to do some crazy things, score a touchdown, recover an onside kick. If they go on to win the game, how could you not call it a close game? So I agree with you. What happens at the end of the game matters. It is a 60-minute game. So
that's if you want to look at football differently, you can, but we're just not going to agree. The one defining point is what's the score at the end of 60 minutes? And every minute you move back, the closest it is the way you describe a game as close or not. Saying that, is it going to be a close game here, Bill Colarulo? Because last week you had the Eagles winning handily over the Commanders. And, yeah, it was, in my opinion, again, hate me if you have to, Eagle fans, it was a close game. The Commanders got their chance with an onside kick after going down the field with just seconds to play and getting within one score. To me, that's a close game. Will this week be close against Dallas?
Well, you referenced the Commanders game. The offense did exactly what we thought they would do. They put up a ton of points. What shocked us all was what the Washington Commanders and Sam Howell were able to do against that defense in the passing game. And we talked about it on Friday, Jody. We were thinking 10 sacks maybe for that Eagles defense last week. They get one. Turned out to be a big one, but thought there was going to be a lot more pressure on Howell. But this week, I do think it's going to be
I only
close.
set the under over at sacks at 7.5.
Yeah.
Kind of missed that one by a little bit, Jody Mack. Not good.
Well, when you look at the team the Commanders had played the week before, the Giants were 32 in the NFL out of 32 teams in sacks, and they were able to get 6 sacks. Now, they blitzed like crazy in that game, but hey, we're on to Dallas. It's Dallas week. But, I think this is going to be a close game. And you look at this Dallas defense, and they are as advertised. I went back and watched all of their games this season, and how opportunistic that defense is has me a little bit concerned. I'll give you my prediction at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. But you just look at what that defense has been able to do, and they score a ton of points on the defensive side of the ball. They lose a guy like Diggs, who we saw what he did last year with these pick sixes, and somehow they replace him with Deron Bland, who already has 3 pick sixes this season. You know about Micah Parsons. You know about all the talent on that defensive side of the ball. So I do think it will be close, but I'll give you my prediction at the end.
Fair enough. But I need a not a prediction, but just a feel on an aspect of the game. We were having some fun with it when Damo was on. Give me the word you would use to describe CeeDee Lamb versus the Eagles slot cornerback. Concerning. Respect.
Yeah.
Fear.
Definitely
petrified. No problem whatsoever. How would you describe what you think the Eagles slot corner, whoever he may be, we don't really know. They're going to make it up as they go along on Sunday versus the best. I'm not, no debate as far as I'm concerned. The best slot receiver in the National Football League is CeeDee Lamb, and he's coming to town for Dallas this week. How do you describe how you feel about whoever's playing slot corner for the Eagles against Lamb?
Concerning, for sure. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you got to give, look, we all hate Dallas, but you got to give respect. CeeDee Lamb is an extremely good wide receiver, and that's been an area that the Eagles have struggled this year. We don't know, like you said, who's playing slot corner on Sunday. Is it going to be Sidney Brown? Doesn't look like Bradley Roby will be ready. Is it going to be Kevin Byard moving down there? Are they going to run out Eli Ricks? I don't know, but that is the only player on that team that scares me on the offensive side of the ball.
Oh, you said scared. Be careful. Damo wouldn't like it. I said I was scared of CeeDee Lamb. And they go, no, concern. There's a difference between concern and scared.
But he's really the only guy. I mean, look, Tony Pollard is a playmaker, but he hasn't played that well over the last couple of weeks. He's not averaging a lot in the running game. Dak Prescott is Dak Prescott. But CeeDee Lamb is a guy who could take over a game. We've seen it. And it's an area the Eagles have struggled for sure. But again, like we were hoping the Eagles were going to do against Sam Howell, a way to combat that is if our defensive line can get pressure on Dak Prescott. And Tyrone Smith not playing could be a big loss for the Dallas Cowboys in this game.
Speaking of pressure, we just alluded to it a couple minutes ago. Eagles didn't get a whole hell of a lot this past week against the Commanders. Give the Commanders credit. Get the ball out of Sam Howell's hands as fast as humanly possible. They compromised the ability of the defensive line to get pressure, but I still don't think the defensive line had a good game. Dak is not that type of quarterback. The Cowboys don't run that type of offense. Get it out, get it out, get it out. They're willing to, with their belief in their offensive line, they're going to drop Dak back 5 and try and get something down the field. Eagles got a better pass rushing game in them this week than they did last week in Washington?
I really hope so. I think they'll show up to play for sure after what happened in Washington. But it was just frustrating watching that Washington game. And, I watch the games with Seth Joyner because we do the JAKIB Sports game day shows.
Right.
And we're watching the game, and it became clear to everyone, every fan, okay, they're trying to get the ball out of Howell's hands quickly. It was obvious, but yet we still had our corners playing 8 to 10 yards off the football. So that's what was so frustrating is if you know they're going to try to do that, get closer to the line, run a little press coverage. Now, like you said, I don't think the Cowboys are going to have the same offensive game plan. So I do think the Eagles will be able to get after Dak Prescott. I mean, they're giving up a decent amount of sacks this year. They're 13th in the NFL. They've given up 18 sacks, but their offensive line's banged up. I just mentioned Tyron Smith not being able to play, hopefully. And even their backup who's been playing, it's who is it? Chuma Edoga. I think he's the guy who's been backed up. He's been banged up as well. So I do think they'll get a little bit more pressure on Dak than they did against Sam Howell.
And this is a weird thing to admit to, but one of my favorite plays in football is the batted pass. That when a defensive lineman gets his hands up and knocks down a pass, it's like that's a fist pump for me, which most people probably don't, but that tells me the guy's just a smart football player. And Eagles didn't do enough of that last week. At some point, you got to go, all right, they're just going to get out of his hands in milliseconds. We're not going to be able to get home. We're not going to be able to blitz. Get your hands up, boys. Sometimes you get a knockdown pass. If you're concerning that before the play starts, if you're acknowledging in your own mind, you're probably not going to get there, well, then make a play somewhere else and get your hands up and knock down a pass. And they didn't do enough of that last week against Washington either. But the big game is coming up on Sunday versus the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to get Mike Sealski from the Enquirer up here next and find out if he was as put off by the fact that Jalen Hurts wouldn't answer his question about his injury yesterday. Yes, I would have been if it would be me who asked that question. Mike Sealski joins us next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Bill Colliver in for Johnny Mac. Johnny Mac here with you, and we are joined by the esteemed colleague from the Philadelphia Inquirer, their lead columnist Mike Zielski joins us on Birds 365. You hear him Saturdays with our buddy. I say our because we kind of share him. We got joint custody of Glenn Mack now. Mike Zielski and Jody McDonald here with you. All right, Mike, how dare you ask Jalen Hurts about his injury status? You can't do that. What were you thinking, young man?
You know, Jody, there are times where I wish these press conferences were not put on websites and television because it just changes.
And WIP radio.
And WIP radio.
You got to be honest here.
Because it changes the dynamic of the interaction between the people who are there and the athlete. And it adds a level of performativeness to it that I don't like. Look, I was asking that question because the quarterback has a bruise on his knee. It is obvious when he plays that it is at least affecting him somewhat.
Sure.
And it has to be asked. I'm not doing it to draw attention to myself. I'm not doing it to annoy Jalen Hurts. And clearly it annoys him, and that's par for the course. I'm not trying to be Jalen Hurts' buddy. He's got enough friends. I've got enough friends. I'm covering him. I'm not trying to do anything else other than that. But somebody has to ask the question because it is a significant aspect to this team now and in the future. Suppose he gets hurt worse. Suppose it leads to him taking a hit that he otherwise wouldn't take. You have to ask these questions. And I don't understand. I really don't understand the people within the media who kind of are on the side of the athlete in this situation, who are like, yeah, Jalen, you don't like a question, walk away. Like, do you want to know what's going on with these teams or not? Like, I'm really kind of baffled by this whole thing. I don't understand why it's such a big deal that I asked this question.
Yeah, and it wasn't a tough it wasn't a tough question. I mean, you're not getting into anything that you shouldn't have asked. We all see it. We've all seen him limping on the field, especially in that game. I forget what play it was. It was on the one where Devontae Smith had the questionable the questionable catch where they had to rush up to the line. You could kind of see him struggling to get up there. So, but yeah, you got to ask the question, Mike. But staying along on the injury side, what are we hearing about Cam Jurgens? I'm reading a lot and reading between the lines here that Tyler Steen may be getting his first start. Is that how you're thinking it's going to?
It's looking like he's getting reps at practice here. And yeah, look, you know, Steen played a little bit against Washington. I think the Eagles feel pretty good about him. This is the benefit, I guess you'd say, of having such depth along the offensive line, is that if Cam is not fully at 100%, then they feel comfortable going with Tyler Steen. So, I mean, look, the line hasn't suffered too much for Cam Jurgens not being in there. And I don't think that's an indictment of Cam Jurgens. I think it's a testament to the priority that the Eagles place along the offensive line, the coaching ability of Jeff Stoutland, his ability to get these guys ready. So, look, if Steen plays there, I think the Eagles will feel pretty good. If Cam Jurgens ends up playing there Sunday, I think they'll feel a little better.
They have made that official, by the way. It's just that he got first team reps in practice. So now we're all trying to extrapolate and see what's going to go down on Sunday. If Steen steps in and plays well, that's just better for the Eagles going forward. Maybe more so down the road than 2023, but they need to win here in 2023. Mike, it's almost incomprehensible, but I think there's actually an underrated aspect to the game this week. That if the Eagles win, they're up 2.5 games. They got a 2-game lead, plus they got a half game because they've got the advantage over the Cowboys. But if they lose, they're within their bye week of being in second place, because the Cowboys will be a half game behind because they've never had their bye. But if they win next week while the Eagles are downtiming it, the Cowboys are actually going to be on first place. Between a gaping lead and being in second place, that's a huge difference. Are we underselling how big this game is in week 9 of an NFL 17-game season?
Yes, we are. I don't feel like there's a true sense of urgency. And as you said, Jody, kind of the implications of the outcome of this game. You're right. The gap between the Eagles winning this game and the Eagles losing it potentially is very, very wide. And not to mention the fact that if the Cowboys win, the Cowboys then become a story in a huge way nationally, right? It seems to me that a lot of the discussion of the Eagles outside of the Philadelphia region has kind of been of like, yeah, they're 7-1, but they haven't looked great. And I've felt kind of the same way, that, you know, they weren't great against the Patriots. They weren't great against the Vikings. They won some games without being at their best. And if they lose to the Cowboys, then all of a sudden the Eagles become, well, you know, they're good. They're probably going to make the playoffs, but they're not as good as they were last year. And now we have a chance to talk about the Cowboys as a legitimate contender in the NFC. So just from a narrative standpoint, there's a lot at stake for the Eagles. And as you said, tangibly, Jody, the difference between winning and losing this game for them is huge.
And not only what it does in the NFC East, but overall, you look at the Detroit Lions, they got an easier schedule, a lot easier schedule the rest of the way. So it'd be nice to get another game up on them as well, but we'll see how all that plays out. But you mentioned, back to the Cam Jurgens thing, that you didn't think that the offensive line has taken a huge hit since he went out. So what's your theory on, I have a theory for this, but I want to hear yours on what's happened to the run game over the last 5 weeks. Because if you look at the average yards per carry, since Jurgens went out in that Washington game, the running backs are only averaging 3.2 yards per carry in the last 5 games, which would put them in the bottom of the NFL. So we all love to talk about how good of a running offense this team has, how much of a luxury it is that they can lean on their running game when the passing game's not working. But we haven't seen that over the last 5 weeks. What's your theory on what's going on with that running game?
I think my theory is that they've played some teams in the Jets and certainly Washington with the defensive line it had before Josh Harris started to go full Sam Hinkie on them, that can stop the run. And the Eagles aren't going to dominate everybody. They're just not. And is the offensive line as good this season as it was last season? No, I don't think it is on the whole. I think Isaac Seumalo was an underrated player, was terrific at guard. And, you know, last year this line was better than it has been. I think some of that is a little bit of wear and tear and age on Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson is still great. He's terrific. Not quite as good as he was last season. those sorts of things happen both in the run game and in the pass game. But, look, the good part about the Eagles, if you're a fan, is they cannot run the ball or struggle to run the ball. And then you can have Jalen Hurts have one of his best games throwing the ball of his career against Washington. He made one mistake in the whole game. It was a big mistake, the fumble at the goal line and the tush push. But otherwise, he was really good. And that's who they want to be. They want to be able to be whatever they have to be to win a game.
I'll give you a half an answer too, Bill. I know you asked Mike, but Jalen Hurts last 2 weeks, averaging less than 2 yards per carry. That's going to bring the number down. When you're only doing the tush push and you're not making plays with your legs and you're protecting a bum knee that you don't want to talk about, yeah, that's going to bring that running number down.
Yeah, and to that point, Jody, part of the reason that the Eagles could run the ball with their running backs, because Bill's point was about the running back yard per carry average being down.
Was it running back or just running in general, Bill?
Overall running back. If you look at the last 5 weeks, overall it's 3.4 yards a carry. Just the running backs are 3.2.
But my point is, when you have Hurts back there who might tuck it into a running back's belly or pull it back and take it himself, that freezes a defense so that if he does give the ball to Kenny Gainwell or DeAndre Swift, that's a natural advantage for those running backs because the defense has to guard against the threat of him running. Jalen hasn't been running as effectively as he was last season, so I'm sure that has a factor in there too.
Residual effect, agreed.
Yeah.
All right, be careful with your answer here, and I want you to be honest with me because I trust you, Mike Zielke. You're an honest journalist. Who gets more yards this week, A.J. Brown or C.D. Lamb?
Ooh, that's a good question. I might be willing to guess C.D. Lamb there, only because it's reached the point with A.J. where I think teams have to start doing something to take him away. It's so easy for him to do what he's doing, or it looks so easy for him to do what he's been doing over the last 6 weeks, that I might be inclined to think the Cowboys are just going to say, you know what, we're going to take A.J. Brown away and take our chances with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. Whereas that Eagles secondary looks pick-apartable. Let's put it that way, Joey. And so betting man, I might say, CD has the better chance for a bigger game.
Agreed, because no matter what the Eagles do, are you going to double out of the slot? Really? You're going to have a safety cover with the slot corner against C.D. Lamb? That's taking an awful big chance. Now, I don't think they get burned on the outside. I don't think either Slay or Bradbury played well last week, but I have faith they'll play better this week. But that'd be a lot of resources to put to a guy in the slot. So I'm leaning toward, if that makes me a hater, so be it. But
you're such a hater.
I know I am. But the only thing that matters is keeping the main thing. The main thing is Jalen likes to say the final score, and I'm certainly going to lean toward the Eagles scoring more points than the Cowboys do. All right, Mike, on the defensive side of the ball, we debated this earlier in the week. I think it's worth revisiting. I thought the Eagles' defensive line played poorly last week. Not as poorly as their defensive backs, but poorly just the same. Give Sam Howell credit. Give Eric Bieniemy credit. Their whole game plan of getting out of Sam's hands fast was very good, but they still didn't get home. You probably heard me talk about, because you jumped in early, they didn't bat any balls down either. Defensive line didn't really do anything last week. We fair? Am I being overly critical of the defensive line, that you can take a defensive line out if you just want to line up and throw it in 1.4 seconds every single snap? Or do you agree with me that they had a little bit of a down game last week across the board?
Well, I mean, look, Howell was getting the ball out so quickly, and the receivers were so open when he did that. I don't know how much of that you put on the defensive line and how much you put on it on the underneath coverage and the coverage in the secondary. I didn't feel like the defensive line had a lot of time to get there. Now, you can make an argument that Sean Desai should adjust. You can make an argument that they should get there anyway. But I never felt like Sam Howell was standing back there for 4.5 seconds and the defensive line just couldn't get near him. I felt like Sam Howell was hitting the top of his drop and getting rid of the ball immediately. And Washington receivers had 6 inches to a foot of space around them to make catches. So I'm not sure. Like, in that situation, Jody, I would say I would put it more on the 7 guys behind the defensive line than I would the defensive line.
Yeah, and I know we keep talking about the Dallas Cowboys offense and CD Lamb, but if you go back and look at their 7 games this season, they're not winning games on offense. They're winning games on defense. They're putting up a lot of points from the defensive side of the ball. Their defense has been really good this season. But if you look at the 2 teams that have been able to beat them, the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers, Cardinals are number 4 in the NFL in rushing. The Niners are number 5 in the NFL in rushing. In those 2 games, they averaged 196 rushing yards. In the 5 games that the Cowboys have won, all those teams are in the bottom of the NFL, bottom half of the NFL in running the football. So it seems like it's right in front of us that the game plan this week should be run the football. We say it a lot for Brian Johnson, run the football. Do you think the Eagles will commit to the run against a defense like the Dallas Cowboys?
I mean, I think it's always a dicey question, Bill, when you ask, will the Eagles commit to the run? Because we know from evidence that they don't want to commit to the run. That's not how they're built. That's not how Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, and to a degree Nick Sirianni, want to coach an offensive game plan. They want to throw the ball. If I were the Eagles, I would ask Jalen Hurts, or tell Jalen Hurts, or talk with Jalen Hurts about having him carry the ball once or twice early in the game. Establish that we are willing to do this early in a game. Because I think you're right. I think the Cowboys can be run on. It's a question of, after the last few weeks and some lack of success against teams that are pretty good against stopping the run, will the Eagles want to do it? So, yeah, the blueprint is there. The question is whether they're going to – it's the same question we ask about the Eagles every week. Are they going to stay with it and allow it to work for them? I don't know, because they want to throw the ball. That's just how they are.
And even though you're right, Bill, you're making good statistical arguments that we've been talking all show about how analytics run football now. Analytics run every sport. Not sure that this one is going to outweigh the fact that the Eagles love their passing game. All right. Along those lines, Mike Sealski, the game within the game. And I think there's another underrated aspect that we should probably talk more about. Offensive coordinator versus defensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator versus defensive coordinator. Mike McCarthy versus Sean Desai. Brian Johnson versus Dan Quinn. You good with the matchups this week? Eagles get the better of the offensive coordinator against the defensive coordinator matchups this week between these 2 teams?
I mean, I think Sean Desai, generally speaking, has been pretty good as the Eagles defensive coordinator. I've never thought of Mike McCarthy as like a revolutionary thinker when it comes to offense. So, I'd say the Eagles have a push there, maybe if not a slight advantage. As far as Brian Johnson against Dan Quinn, I'll give it to the Cowboys there. I think Dan Quinn probably has the edge on Brian Johnson just based on experience and understanding what the Eagles want to do and how they can do it. Although, having said that, it's not like the Cowboys stopped the Eagles very much in their 2 games last season. The Eagles put up, 35, 37 points with Gardner Minshew.
With Gardner.
Yeah, and, raced out to a 20-point lead in the game at the Link earlier in the season before kind of taking their foot off the gas. So, look, I think Brian Johnson is still kind of finding his way as a play caller. I don't think he has the natural kind of understanding of offensive rhythm and timing in terms of play calling that Shane Steichen had. But, as long as he doesn't hand the ball to Kenny Gainwell on 3rd and 8 again, I think most people, will be okay with the matchup and feeling like the Eagles have it. All right. Would I give Dan Quinn the advantage? Yeah, I probably would, but that doesn't mean Brian Johnson can't get him once in a while.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll continue to see Brian Johnson grow as a play caller. I think he has gotten better. Clearly, the red zone has still been a little bit of an issue, but the red zone's gotten better over the last 2 weeks outside of those 2 turnovers. But I want to do something that Nick Sirianni would be mad at, and that is let's look ahead for a second. So we've gotten to that point of the schedule where when it came out in the offseason, all of us looked at that schedule and we're like, damn, those are a tough 6-game stretch. This is what I've been referring to as the gauntlet for the Philadelphia Eagles. So when you look at these next 6 games, we talked about how important this game is for the standings. What does Mike Sealski think the Eagles need to do in the next 6 games to really put themselves in position to hopefully get that number 1 seed in the NFC?
I mean, I think at most you can lose 2 of them, and that's, you're talking about going to Kansas City. You're talking about having Buffalo and Josh Allen come here. You're talking about seeing the Cowboys again, this time in Dallas. You're talking about San Francisco, which all of a sudden doesn't look as imposing as it once did. So, look, I think I would be mildly surprised if the Eagles won in Kansas City just because of the circumstances. And I think they could afford to lose one more of those games coming up before, you really have to panic. I've said since the beginning, Bill, of the season that the Eagles might end up with a worse record this season than they did last season and be every bit as good, if not better, than they were last season just because of the nature of the schedule. And I think that could bear out, over the next 6 weeks.
I could tell you if the Eagles are going to win in Kansas City with one key piece of information. What's Taylor Swift's itinerary? Because they don't lose when she shows up at games. So we got to find out if she's going to be there for that Eagle game that week.
I'm just trying to shake off that wisecrack, Joe.
Shake it off. Very good. All right, Mike, will there be a letdown in the stands this week? Because the birds on the field will not be in Kelly Green. Is that going to take an edge off the crowd this week?
No, I didn't. I thought it was cool that the Eagles went back to the Kelly Green against the Dolphins, and they'll do it again against the Bills. But I didn't perceive like a real big difference between the crowd enthusiasm inside or outside of Kelly Green. It's Eagles Cowboys. That place will be on fire. It always is.
See, I thought Jody was referring to, when he says the letdown, that Micah Parsons told the Cowboys fans he wanted them to take over Lincoln Financial Field. Are you kidding me?
That was just dumb.
Are you kidding me?
That was not a wise thing for Micah to say. Just because, not because it's going to fire Eagles fans up more. It's just because the idea of Cowboys fans taking over Lincoln Financial Field is kind of silly.
Yeah, not happening.
No. Eagles fans are the ones that do the takeover on travel, and not the other way around. Not the other way around. So are we ready for Mike's prediction yet, Jody, or we got a little bit more time with Mike?
Yeah, Mike, we can get you on the record here. The Eagles are a 3-point favorite, which into itself does surprise me because Vegas is really good at this. There's reason why everybody's got an app now and they're taking it every single state and they just keep adding because they're good at what they do, setting these lines and bouncing out and taking their percentage. I thought the Eagles would be favored by more than a field goal because I think they're a better team. And if you believe that home field advantage moves the line or should move the line by 3 points, they're trying to tell you that this is a toss-up game at a neutral site. I don't believe that. I think the Eagles are a better football team. Will they win? Will they cover? Will they win by more than 3 points on Sunday?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll win. I think they'll cover. I think they'll struggle a little bit in the red zone. They'll be able to move the ball against the Cowboys defense, but they'll settle for some Jake Elliott field goals. But in the end, they're going to win the game 33-24.
33-24 from Mr. Sealski. And do me a favor. Don't ask John about his knee after the game. Unless they have to carry him off, then it is a legitimate question, Mr. Sealski. If he needs to be aided off the field, if John Deere's got to come out onto the field, then you absolutely can ask the question. But other than that, let someone make
I will ask the questions that I want to ask, Jody.
Make John McMullen do it. Yeah,
all right.
You did the heavy lifting this week.
I'll slip John a $5 and he can ask about the knee.
Make Johnny Mac do some heavy lifting. Mike, always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you very much for coming on. We'll get you back in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Sealski here with us on Birds 365. All right, so we got the Damo prediction of 31-27, the McMullen prediction of 31-23, the Sealski prediction of 33-24. I've got mine, and we'll get Billy C's prediction on the Eagles game against. And shockingly, the Eagles have been the selection of all three people so far. We very rarely have someone pick the other side. I did against the Dolphins, foolishly. That was my bad. But we'll come back. Billy C and I will give you the last couple thoughts on the matchup between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Cut up Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field here on Birds 365.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Coming down the home stretch on a football Friday, Dallas week, Birds 365, Bill Colarulo, and for Johnny Mac, we had to get over to South Philly for a little Sirianni insight. All right, 4:25 kickoff, not a national TV game. Not a 1 o'clock game. I love 1 o'clock games, but a 4:25. So it is the national game in the late afternoon window. I did check it before I came on today. It should get down into the 40s when the sun goes down second half of the game. That's why I like to play the Cowboys second. If it's going to be the breakout that it usually is, which is you're going to get the Dallas Cowboys somewhere near, for the first time, near the midway point of the season, and then once late. I appreciate the fact that they didn't wait till week 17. If everything's on the line in week 17 or 18, then it's great. But we've had too many matchups between Eagles and the Cowboys where one of the two teams said, we're not playing anybody. You get the JV squad. We're protecting it, but we're going to keep everybody on the sidelines, keep them healthy. So I liked the time of the year that they scheduled both the Eagles and the Cowboy matchup this year. But I was hoping that it would be here, be in Dallas first and here in Philadelphia second, because the second game, if you believe they're going to be close, is the more important of the two. And I like a little bit colder for the Cowboys. If they got to come up here in December rather than early November, that's a bit of a plus for me. I was hoping that maybe the temperature dropped or that we have some precipitation. Looks like very little chance of rain, and it's going to be cold but not freezing. So I don't think weather's a factor here in the game against the Cowboys. Before you give me your score, give me the couple of things that you think are the biggest factor, Bill Colarulo. What are the aspects of the game, the matchups in the game that you think will actually help to decide this game one way or the other, whether it's Cowboys on Eagles or Eagles on Cowboys?
I think there's three key factors in the game. And like most games, turnovers is number one, but then also third down and red zone. You look at these two teams, both offenses have been extremely good this year on third down. Eagles are number one in the NFL on third down offense. The Cowboys are number three on third down offense. Number three, they're tied for third at 48%.
Okay.
But the thing is, Where the advantage goes, and I hate to admit it, is the Cowboys, because you look at third down defense. The Eagles defense has struggled on third down, 25th in the league, whereas the Cowboys are in the top 10. They're number 7 in the league. So who can get off the field on third down on defense, I think, is going to be a big factor. And then the red zone. You got 2 of the worst red zone offenses in the NFL going up against each other. Eagles have continued to get better each week, but they're still 18th in the league. But miraculously, Cowboys are 29th in the NFL in the red zone. So which offense is going to be able to score in the red zone this week, I think will be big. And then turnovers, man. You look at the turnovers. In the 5 wins that the Cowboys have, they have a plus 10 turnover differential. And in their 2 losses, a -4 turnover differential. So the Eagles have to protect the football this week, and it's been a problem all season long. Way too many turnovers. So I think those are the 3 keys. If they could score in the red zone, get off the field on third down, and not turn the ball over, the Eagles should be able to win this football game.
All right, I'm going to play into your numbers, Bill Colarulo, and say you've stated good numbers, and they will hold sway the way that they've been playing all year. I think it's field goal fest. I think both teams will once again have problems with the red zone, and there's not going to be a whole hell of a lot of touchdowns scored. But you've also got, and this, you can knock me over with a feather. They've got 2 of the best field goal kickers in the game playing this week. We know how good Jake Elliott is. The guy who I thought the Cowboys were making a major mistake by saying, a former USFL kicker.
He's doing
He
well.
never kicked in front of a crowd in a football game before this preseason. He missed his first PAT of the year. First one, game 1, missed the PAT. Has not missed a kick since. 18 for 18 on PATs, 18 for 18 on field goals, and a bunch from over 50. So Brandon Aubrey's been much better than I thought he would. I think it's going to be a kicking game. I've got the Eagles winning 26-20. What score are you going to give me for Eagles-Cowboys, Bill Colarulo?
Not too far off from you, Jody. Not too far off from you. I got the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game 27-24, and we're going to be feeling real good next week on the bye, 8-1, 2.5 games up on the Cowboys. But I just can't imagine they lose this football game. And maybe this is me wishful thinking, but I really think you're going to see them run the football better this week. I really do. I think you're going to see them establish the run early and keep the ball in their hands, because if you play into the Dallas Cowboys defense, they want you to drop back 50 times. They want you to throw the football because they're so opportunistic back there at picking the ball off. I think they have 9 interceptions already this season, puts them at number 4 in the NFL. So don't play into their hands. Establish the run early. 27-24, Eagles win.
I like your pick. And the one thing that we have determined here by everybody's picks, if we aggregate it, a lot of people think it's going to be over. The over-under number is 47. Damo had the Eagles in the 30s. Johnny Mack had the Eagles in the 30s. Sealski had the Eagles in the 30s. You were at 27. I'm low man on the totem pole at 26, and I got 26-20, which is just slightly under. Yeah, I'm not going to play the over-under. I think Eagles are going to win. I think the Eagles are going to cover the 3-point number. I'm surprised that it hasn't moved up from that, but a lot of high-scoring predictions on this one. I think it's going to be a little bit better defensively. Bill's closer to me than anybody else, but I'm the only one who's picking a score that is actually under 26-20 Eagles. All right, Bill, what do you got coming up on the Power Hour next here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel?
Yeah, I see some of my Power Hour crew in the chat, which is good. Barbara Carroll always checking in. What's up, Babs? We're going to preview full hour.
I didn't know you were that close that you could call her Babs. That's
it's my girl now. She's on all the shows.
Know that.
On all the shows. So you just got me today on the Power Hour previewing Eagles Cowboys for the hour. Going to dive into all these numbers. You know I like my stats, so stay tuned, guys. At 10 o'clock, the Philly Sports Power Hour.
Bill Colarulo is up next, so you want to stay right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube show. Do not forget, all weekend he'll be part of the pregame show, the postgame show, all over the Eagles all day Sunday before it gets underway, and then after the game as well. And if you're going to be down Ocean, have a good time while you're down the shore, and check out the boys on the pre and post on the Eagles show. Johnny Mack and I will be back unless something tragic happens to McMullen. Maybe he asks about Jalen Hurts' knee and Jalen hits him one. just suggested. But Johnny Mac should be back on Monday. He and I will return after, hopefully, an Eagle victory on Sunday against the Cowboys. Thanks for tuning everybody here to Birds 365. Keep it right here. Billy C. coming up next with the Power Hour. Talk to you on Monday.
Thanks, Jerry.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.